Hi, and welcome back to How I Settled in West Sweden. In this episode, we continue Kris's story on how he built a network in Gothenburg and how those connections shaped both his career and his social life.
When we meet people, we cannot just see them as individuals who have no meaning to anything. You never really know. So you have to not only treat people well and warmly, but you need to represent yourself consistently in a way that is repeatable. Give people the words to use to describe you. Being successful is hard. Being unsuccessful is hard. Choose your hard. And so in this social game that we all have to play, not everything is going to be easy. Reflecting on how I navigated my career and my social life here in Sweden, if not for certain people and certain roles that they played in my life, I would never have made it. Luckily, I knew coming into Sweden, I was mature enough and old enough to know that we need people. I created this map of people that I encountered in Gothenburg in an attempt to help other people who moved to Gothenburg appreciate how to look at a network. So I focused on that. But in hindsight, reflecting on how people showed up allowed me to categorize people. And then being a strategist, I thought about how do you equip the right people with the right information and the right value to be able to empower them or accelerate their ability to help you. So my map was like, okay, when I first moved to Sweden, all I had was Sarah, my ex-wife, my daughter's mother. And through her and her knowing me deeply, I found the acting class. She recommended an acting class where we knew that this is a group of people I could prioritize because they would get me, artists and people who like the arts. From that acting class, I met a couple academics. Who would have known that there is a overlap in academia and arts? Because lots of academics. And one of those academics happened to be Johanna. Johanna was working at a company that wanted extras to do a film. It was paying 100 crowns. I had no job and I had time. So I said yes. And I went to do this film where I smiled and whatever. But while on set, I met the communications manager, Lena. And Lena and I just got to talking and I said, I've been a communications manager in Trinidad, and you know what it takes to be a great communications manager is knowing a lot of people. And I feel like a bird without my wings because I don't know many people here. So I can't give the kind of value that I'm typically able to give. And so I'm prepared to volunteer and work my way around to get that network. So I asked Lena, do you have any opportunities where I can volunteer? And she said, you know what? I do. I need some help with this event. So I volunteered with Lena at the company that happened to be a body of the European Union. And after volunteering with Lena, she introduced me to her boss, Björn. Because of the experience I had volunteering and working with that team, it opened a door for me to get a job, a temporary job at the organization. Then after I worked there and really gave my all, really gave my best, it was Björn who gave me that book that had the phrase walk worthy. After really giving my best there, the contract had expired, the period was over. They were so pleased with me that Lena wrote a recommendation letter to this agency, OTW. Now, I had never in my life seen a recommendation letter so beautifully written. It was so straightforward and clear about the type of value. Lena had written this recommendation letter to usher me into an agency that she had worked with previously. And the recommendation letter was undeniable. She had all of the tools that she needed to get me into that job. Then when I got the job and I was working through that job, the network that I began to build, I mentioned earlier that I had been doing strategy work for Volvo. So I started to meet quite a lot of different people at Volvo and different parts of Volvo. And through solid system that I have for my professionalism, which is add value. That's what drives who I am as a professional, ensure you give value, and of course be warm and kind and smile and those types of things. I started to make an impression on individuals inside of Volvo that I was dependable and that I was someone who gave value. So by the time it mattered, when I had this opportunity to work at Volvo, obviously people are going to ask around, who is this guy? And one of the things that's very typical in large enterprises, period, is people hire who they know and who they're familiar with. That makes it almost impossible for an outsider to get in. Not from Gothenburg, not from Sweden, not from Europe, nothing like that. Real outsider. So the person who hired me would have had to ask the people that I worked with before, what's it like to work with him? What's he like? And luckily, they were equipped with warmth and pleasant memories and competence. I could not have known on day one that these people would be asked one day to be my reference. We think that we choose our references. It's those people that open the doors for you. And then at that point, I begin to network in that space. There are people there who open the door for speaking engagements, for book deals, for all sorts of different things that open up, that create even more opportunities and more meaning in life and more stability. So if I reflect on the types of people that I encountered, the leaners and the clients and the people who have to amplify your message, I told Lena at the very beginning, I want to give value, but the way that I give value is out of reach for me. I just need the opportunity and I would do it for free. That conversation carried her opinion of me. Of course, they follow through. And I think that the message when I share that map that I've created is that we have to appreciate the value that people bring in amplifying and accelerating the signals in our network. So when we meet people, we cannot just see them as individuals who have no meaning to anything. You never really know. So you have to not only treat people well and warmly, but you need to represent yourself consistently in a way that is repeatable. Give people the words to use to describe you. Introduce yourself with your value system so that when they have the opportunity to describe you, those words like smiling, energy, value, kind, your values come out. So that big map, and I can share it with you, that big map, if I look back at it, it was a number of people who I equipped to tell my story on my behalf by giving them value. A question that I get a lot is, how do you network as an introvert? Especially in the context of having lost a lot of your confidence because of the gaps that exist between the way you see yourself and the way you think you're being perceived because you don't have a job. I fully understand that. I myself remember the resentment I used to feel even looking at construction workers on the side of the road in uniform because they have a job. That resentment and that lack of confidence and the anxiety of showing up right because this could be an opportunity, all of that inner turmoil, especially in the context of seeing yourself as an introvert, could be crippling. I think that networking has nothing to do with call cards or charisma. There is a degree of confidence that is required. And so the ability to repeat and have positive self-thought, repeat in your mind that you are worthy, that you have value, whether you can quantify or qualify that value in any given moment is irrelevant. You are worthy and you do have value. I have found that confidence comes from giving value. What I think really matters in human-to-human relationship development is just helping people. And I don't mean helping people professionally or in any grand way. Paying attention to what someone has to say, paying attention to what someone is trying to achieve. It could be you're sitting in a waiting room and someone is closing up the room and you see an opportunity to pick up a piece of paper and help them just because their ambition in this moment is to clean up and close off. I think that mindset of I'm going to be valuable in this moment. I'm going to contribute my essence, myself, to the people around me is really what matters, even if it means telling someone, thank you, that was beautiful, what you said. Or, I see you. That is a small way of giving value. And in giving that value, not only are you increasing your own self-worth, because you have to be worth something to give something, you're also creating a dynamic where that person walks away with a feeling about you. And you know this statement, your brand is the way people feel. So you don't have to recite your resume or say a fancy word about your profession or your skill set. Sometimes you just need to be able to see people and recognize them and help where you can and allow that to evolve. So I want to just touch on the introvert thing. It's not so easy to speak in crowds. It's not so easy to walk up to someone and say, hey, can I have your LinkedIn? Without feeling that, oh, I might be creepy or these other intrusive thoughts. I understand that. I don't think that there is a very clear and easy way to say what to do. Yes, extroverts do have an advantage, in my opinion. It is tricky to step out of your comfort zone, but I think it's tricky even for those who consider themselves extroverts. I think it's always risky. But there are ways that I think you can navigate that crippling feeling. One is LinkedIn. You can follow someone on LinkedIn, pay attention to what they have to say, comment on the things that they are saying, simply saying thank you, simply saying I appreciate what you're saying, I see you, thanks for sharing. And over time, develop a community on LinkedIn. Over time, reach out when it feels warmer. I think that you can also create content. I think the internet has allowed for a lot of introverts to be seen. Create content in the comfort and privacy of your home, and pressing post might not be as crippling as walking up to someone's face to get your message out there. Writing blogs. I used to write blogs. I still do. I write quite a lot of blogs. But I started writing blogs when I started my education in marketing, because I understood the value of building my personal brand and building my thought leadership in the space. And that's why I started. I wanted to just write about marketing, to create content about it. That gave me the opportunity to be known by people who I didn't know yet. So at least have my name known by people. And I remember one time I wrote about the music industry in Trinidad, and I tweeted the post, and it was retweeted by one of the biggest soca artists. Soca is our genre of music, and the artist was Bunji Garlin, is his name. And he retweeted it. And then it went fire. It went crazy. At least for me, for a 20-something-year-old writing blogs. And someone commented on the tweet saying stuff effectively that they totally disagreed with my points, and it was baseless. And one person. And that crippled me from writing for maybe 2-3 years. So I do also appreciate that in itself is difficult. What just came to my mind? That statement, being successful is hard. Being unsuccessful is hard. Choose your hard. And so in this social game that we all have to play, not everything is going to be easy. Being a parent is the greatest joy of my life, because in Sweden, I was able to be in the delivery room with my daughter's mom from the moment she checked in to the moment she checked out. I don't think that opportunity is afforded in everywhere. And I saw my daughter's head come out. I saw her take her first breath. Right after she was born, they told me to take off my shirt, and they put her on my chest. And they took her mother away for some care. For maybe about 3 hours, she just lay there on my chest. Easily the most beautiful moment in my entire life. That value system that is shared in Sweden about the importance of fathers, that is amazing. And I remember actually feeling like my heart grew, physically grew. I didn't have to find space in my heart to love my daughter. My heart evolved, and she had her own space. So being a father is a truly magical feeling. And being a father in Sweden, where the expectation of normal is that a dad is there every day, at every step, in every way, which is how I think dads should be. So there isn't an anti-culture. And in the Caribbean, I think that there is an anti-culture of what it means to be a man. I won't just spotlight the Caribbean. I think in the world, what it means to be a man has a lot to do with being distant. It has a lot to do with being cold. It means that you don't get to cry. It means that you don't get to be warm. It means that you don't get to be human, really, in many ways, as a man. So if you can't be human, then how could you be a parent? And I think Sweden allows men to be human to a greater extent than anywhere I've been. It promotes a culture of male humanness, which is, it shows up in parental leave, long parental leave for men. That's amazing. I've always wanted to be a PTA dad, a dad that goes to all of the parent meetings. That level of equality. It's funny how we don't think about parental equality in the way that Sweden thinks about it. We, Sarah and I, the values that we share as parents are really great. As I look outside and see many men walk with strollers, we really believe in the closeness of a mother's bond and of a father's bond. We really believe in that above everything else in infancy and small childhood development. We really believe in education. And Sweden gives us this space to have those beliefs. Now, we both have good jobs, so we don't have a problem taking care of our child's financial needs. But if we did, Sweden is there. The school system gives her breakfast and lunch and snacks every day. That's not common globally. Everyone, it's universal. The system gives us money, in actual cash. And that sort of security gives a peace of mind that I think every parent should have. So being a dad in Sweden is nothing but a blessing. And Kiara grounds me, my daughter. She grounds me. She keeps me disciplined. And she keeps me being a visionary, because I have to think about what life in 20 years is going to look like for me and for her, and how I can ensure that I do my best as a father to help her thrive in this new world. I don't have to worry so much about college tuition, again, Sweden. But if she wants to study in the States, for example, of course I have to be able to prepare for that. But I do have to worry about her marrying an AI. I do have to think about that. It's not impossible. And so I can't be closed to where the future is going. I have to be visionary. I have to be innovative in my mindset. And it's good. It's not stressful. Sweden, work-life balance is a real value for everyone. Coming from the Caribbean context, which is, generally speaking, the Americas, highly American influenced, there is a significant hustle culture that I was birthed in, that I became Kris in, that I thrived in. And that hustle culture meant part-time master's degree while navigating an impossible transport system and navigating a career, a job that I had to perform high in, while also navigating a business on the side, while also navigating a social movement and social fluidity. My career was so intense in the Caribbean. So I've been trained by a culture that does not recognize work-life balance. And so performative perfectionism, hyper-productivity, high-performance teams, and those types of things, that's where I come from. That's where I cultivated my skills. So it has been a bit of a culture shock for me. I'll explain, because I work a lot and I work with a lot of energy. I push through a lot of inconveniences to get the job done, which is not culturally expected here. And not only is it not culturally expected, I think it's frowned upon. I think it works against you to be that person who endures, or to be that person who thinks himself a rock star. It's not appreciated, and for good reason. But I have struggled with navigating my work ethic, which was once my crowning glory, with the expectation of logom and yantelogen, doing not too much, not too little, just enough, and not thinking that I'm better than anyone else. I don't actually think I'm better than anyone else. I do acknowledge that I work harder than most people, period. That's not saying anything about anybody. It's just how I've cultivated myself, and it's something that I pride myself on. But it's not something that I think Swedish people want to hear. So I continue to navigate an environment where I might be doing too much, and I'm not super sure how to break that. I think it frustrated my ex-wife. It might look like workaholism to some. In New York, it's just Monday or Tuesday. But in Sweden, it's, what is he trying to do? Why is he doing all that? I'm just trying to be great the only way I know how. I think the navigating of work-life balance versus hustle culture is new for me. I think compared to the Americas, the corporate culture that I've experienced here at Volvo really puts people first, or at least there is a lasting feeling and a convincing one that people are put first. You definitely don't have that feeling in most business environments in the Caribbean, I'm sorry to say. I think that despite what could be described as an individualistic nature of Swedish people and of Swedish systems, at Volvo, there is a clear culture of care. There is a clear sensitivity and empathy to what is happening with the human who is doing this work. There is also, in my experience now, I work in a specialist role. So in my experience in that role and with my colleagues, we drive our work at Volvo. Who we are as individuals, who we are as ambitious people, our level of energy, our perspective, our research, our ambition levels play a very big role in our productivity. We are not driven by some external force that says you have to do this. We use consensus to set goals, and consensus comes from the realities of parental leave and illness or just tiredness. It doesn't come from greatness for greatness' sake. Yes, there is competitiveness, industry competitiveness, but there is also trust that we have what it takes to achieve what needs to be achieved. There is a safety at Volvo, not just employment safety, because I'm pretty sure my boss could fire me if he wanted to, but a safety that I could only describe with the memory of going back out to work right after chemo. That feeling that nothing is expected of you that you can't do. What is expected of you is that you do what you know how to do. If you don't know how to do it, that you're not going to pretend that you don't know how to do it. You're going to be reliable on your word that if you're doing something, you know how to do it. So that reliability creates trust, and that trust creates a network of safety. And that culture creates the space for us to want to be better, for us to want to do more. At least for me, I imagine there are those people who are comfortable in their capacity and love that and feel safe in that. But I feel safe in the knowledge that I will be trusted. I think that's really what makes Volvo quite great, that I have a safe space to be the best that I can be. I love it. I'm a student of Swedish innovation, for sure. I am amazed. Let's start with music. If you don't know, Swedes are producing all of the top global pop hits and have been doing that for decades. The ability to innovate in music consistently is baffling. And then to apply technology to that, Swedes own the Billboard charts. Spotify, and Tidal had some roots in Sweden as well, where corporations are formed around that. Sweden created a global ecosystem based on its own talent and is leading in that ecosystem. We're seeing it in finance as well. This extreme common sense approach to finance that the entire world knows makes sense, but nobody knows how to do it. And I've been to many developing countries, and that is a big problem. Just the ability to transfer money from one person to the next. Simple. Just the ability to track money. And that has such an impact on countries' crime. Sweden solved it. It's just solved. Klarna, Swish, amazing innovations. And I mean, the seatbelt and the mindset of engineering something that is so obvious that nobody else could have figured out and then giving it away for free, patent free. The seatbelt, giving it away to all other companies just because it makes sense. It's so inconceivable to someone who's not Swedish. It's so amazing. It's amazing. And then when I sit in boardrooms and realize how long it takes for a decision to get made in Sweden, I'm like, how is this? How does it work? And so I submit myself to the fact that I don't know. I submit myself to the altar of greatness that does exist here.
In the next episode, you'll hear the story of Liz Ryder, who moved from the UK to Gothenburg with her family. Through her own experience, Liz shares why saying yes to new opportunities, meeting new people, and staying open to connections is so important when you're trying to find your place in a new home.
Any kind of change is difficult, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Join every club, meet every person, even if it's something that you don't particularly like or it's people that are not your people, because that's how you'll find your people. Persistence helped me succeed. It's definitely just keep going, keep believing, don't give up.
If you like our podcast, please do subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast or YouTube so you can be notified when a new episode is released. And please give us a 5-star review, which helps other people find the podcast. This podcast is made by Move to Gothenburg, an initiative run by the West Sweden Chamber of Commerce and co-funded by the European Union, Region Västra Götaland, and several companies, universities and public organizations in the region. Thank you for listening.